Hey RACER.com fans, thanks for tuning in. Our weekly installments of nostalgia and fun, we hope. 42 years ago this month, I competed in the second and final Cannonball Baker Siege Assigning Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, which was the greatest race of all time that didn't pay anything, that had no sanction fee, that was just a bunch of crazy people driving from New York City to LA on the Pacific Ocean as fast as they could. And it was in the memory of Cannonball Baker, this famous motorcycle racer who back in 1909 won the first motorcycle race ever held at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then he rode a motorcycle from LA to New York in 11 days, like in 1911. Came back about 1933 and drove a car from New York City to LA in about 53 hours. So that was the impetus for Brock Yates, one of the great motorsports riders of all time. In 1971 he said, we're going to have a race in Cannonball Baker's memory. And in his honor, we're going to race from New York City to Los Angeles. So whoever wants to go, Tony Adamowitz, a hell of a race driver, he had a team. Donna Mae Mims and a couple of girls, they had a team. Joe Frazon, former NASCAR racer, had a team. So Brock got Dan Gurney, the great Dan Gurney, to come drive a Ferrari Daytona. And they won the very first Cannonball Baker race, and Dan made it in 35 hours, which was pretty amazing when you stop and think about it, how fast they were going in certain stretches. So in 1972 I called Brock up. I didn't really know him, and I said, hey Brock, I cover racing for the Indianapolis Star. I got Art Pollard and Johnny Parsons, they're going to help me drive there. And he goes, oh great, yeah, you're in. Well, I convinced USAC to they loaned me the Datsun 240Z pace car they had that year for the IndyCar series. The night before I was supposed to leave, they towed it back out from in front of the Indianapolis Star where I was working and said, you know, Jim Campbell Dotson said, you're not taking that car anywhere. We'd get sued if you crashed. Art Pollard bailed on me when he found out there was no prize money. Same with Johnny Parsons. So I flew to New York City by myself. I go into this parking garage where the race is going to start. I run into a guy. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I'm looking for a ride. He said, good. I just bought my mother-in-law a Vegas station wagon. I'm looking for somebody to drive it. So he introduced me to a guy named Wes Don, who was a stock car racer from Ascot Park. He was also a full-time Hollywood makeup artist, and he put us together, gave us his Vegas station wagon. Well, Wes was a hell of a lot smarter than I was mechanically, which isn't saying much, but he said, you know, we got a 5-gallon tank in this car. That's Wes right there. That's me, long hair, Prince Valiant. He said, we'll have to stop 80 times for gas if we don't do something. So we went looking for a parts house in Manhattan. We ended up finally going to Brooklyn or Queens. We found 5-gallon cans, a toggle switch, a piece of Teflon hose, and Wes decided when the 5-gallon tank ran out, whoever wasn't driving had to jump in the back seat and put the and move the hose to different tanks so we could keep going without stopping. Now, needless to say, if we'd have gotten rear-ended, we'd have looked like the Hindenburg going up. It would have been, they'd still show replays of this crash. Hey, it was this crash on the interstate. But we didn't. So I drove the first leg, got our first ticket like 9 minutes into the race. Once you got going from this parking garage in Manhattan, they stamped your ticket with the time you took off. You got going about 80 miles an hour, and you can get out of New York City. And I drove the first leg, then I took a nap. When I woke up, I saw a sign that said Lake Erie, 10 miles, and I was trying to think, Lake Erie? That's Cleveland. Wes, bless his heart, was from LA. He didn't know. He took 80 north instead of 80 south, so that cost us a couple hours, which is going to come back to play in the story. In the meantime, the first or second time we stopped, I was like, we got to do something. We don't have cruise control here, because he unhooked our catalytic converter. I said, you know, our legs are going to get tired. So we got a snow scraper, broke it off, and jammed it in the throttle. That was our cruise control. We ran most of the race wide open. And this Vega would go about 103 miles an hour downhill, wide open, and we got 6 tickets. We never had to go to jail or justice of the peace. We kept talking our way out of it, telling them we were moving to LA and we're sorry, we'll slow down. And this one guy says, you're not part of that race, are you? He goes, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, sir. No, race? We don't know anything about race. We finally get to Needles, California. The sun's come up, and here's a Pantera. He started about 20 minutes before we did, and I told Wes, we got to be winning this thing. That car could go 150 miles an hour. So we took a shortcut that he knew about, and as fate would have it, we got our 6th and final ticket right across from Riverside Raceway, and the guy made us sit there for about an hour. Well, we made it in 39 hours, and the winning car was 37 hours, which is pretty damn impressive in a Vegas station wagon, I'll tell you that. And the first 2,000 miles on this car were all running wide open. So it was all over. It was a great time. Thanks to Dave Gentry. He was working for TWA. He flew me back because I didn't have any money. And a few a couple days after I got back, I decided, I got to share this experience with people in Indianapolis. So I wrote a story for the Indianapolis Star. Cannonball was 79 mile per hour jailhouse rock. The Bureau of Motor Vehicles tried to revoke my license. This guy, they went nuts. But a few years ago, Brock Yates called me up and he said, hey, I'm thinking about having a Cannonball Baker race, one more, for everybody that was in the first couple. So I started talking to Paul Newman about doing it, and Eddie Worth, who was a hell of a motorcycle racer and a hell of a sprint car racer, and Eddie was Paul's right-hand guy and best friend. So we almost had Newman convinced to do it, and then Brock's lawyer said, you can never have another race like that, because if somebody gets killed or hurt, they'll take everything you own. So instead, Brock said, okay, everybody write a story, and he put this book out a few years ago, which is just all the great funny stories about the first 2 years of the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. And it's even on Wikipedia, and it's got the name of everybody that raced in the Cannonball Baker race. It's damn cool. And, it's one of those things you did when you were a kid and you were thinking, like Dan Gurney flew from L.A. to New York with the NSA case and said, my father-in-law told me, why the hell wouldn't you do it? Live a little, have some fun. I can't imagine a lot of people doing that now. But I can tell you this, it was as much fun as you're ever going to have, and it was just that kind of spirit of adventure, doing crazy stuff, and that's what you did, I think, back in the 70s when you were young and dumb, and I was young and dumb a long time, but it was just a great adventure, and I'm always going to be thankful to Brock Yates that he let me participate in it, and this is a salute to him and the boys that ran the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. 35 hours, Daniel Sexton Gurney. He's still the man.